Hello, welcome to Studio Talks. My name's James Swift.
I'm Josh McNorton, and our guest today is
Anno Brandreth.
Hey, Anno, you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good. Doing well. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm
yeah,
good.
Yeah.
So how are you doing, and what have you been up to lately?
Okay, I'm doing okay. I'm doing as good as everyone else, I think, in these situations. I am actually working, so I work kind of 8 till 4 anyway, doing my normal job. So it's I mean, I've pretty much got a routine together, So it's not too bad. And then watching probably the same telly as everybody else is at night and just trying to chill out a bit and relax.
Yeah, I never thought I'd catch up with like Netflix and stuff like that.
It is good catching up with stuff, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Have you ever watched this?
What's your history with the studio?
Okay, it's quite long and quite convoluted, actually. I originally knew quite a few of the people that are behind it. So Jackie and Bill had done recording with bands in the basement, and obviously I'd known them from kind of the Addams Family, the band that they were in. I knew Greg and Louise for a long time. So again, I had the connection with them, and through things like feedback and doing things like Ballistic Acoustic, it was around about then that the studio came on board and they were talking about opening it up kind of because of the Queen's Hall situation and stuff. So I was actually one of the third people that were in there, because it was myself and Greg and Bill Leach with a big hammer and a screwdriver, and we actually went through the door and bashed the door down and went in, and it was just crazy. It was full of pigeons, and it was just mad. It was absolutely mad, and it was dark, there was no lighting, and you kind of looked at it and thought, well, it's got potential, but we're not sure what for. So it was quite interesting, really. And from that kind of point on, I've always been kind of lurking in the shadows, doing different things, doing musical stuff, so got involved kind of that way. Yeah. So I think that's it. Yeah. That's how I got involved.
Well, that's brilliant. What is your history with music in general?
Right. Okay. So I'm a big music fan. I've got two big passions in my life. One is natural history, and one is music. I've always listened to music, and when I was in school, we were all into kind of rock and heavy rock. So we were the kind of crowd that had long hair, and the teachers used to moan about us. But there was 4 of us that had a band. Well, there were 4 people that had a band, and they needed a bass player. And they come to me and said, "You can play bass." So I got a bass. My brother bought me my first bass, which was a Grant Precision copy, which I haven't got anymore, unfortunately. And then probably about 2 years later, I bought an amplifier. So it shows you how committed we were to the cause. And we used to rehearse in someone's living room, and we used to do things. We used to do like covers by Kiss and Dylan and Whitesnake and people like that, and that was really how it started. And then I got into other bands. My first band was called Eric the Vagrant. That was a bit punky and a bit kind of Clash-ish and Echo and the Bunnymen kind of stuff. Then I took some time out and eventually came back and joined the Pond Dwellers, which obviously was Clive's band. I'm one of the 34 bass players that have been in the Pond Dwellers. So, that was great. I had an absolutely fantastic time all over the Northwest, kind of doing stuff. And then various things, And now I'm still in 3 bands. I've got Red Monk, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
I'm also part of Slaughterhouse, which is a covers band with John Chatterton, who you'll both know. And a revolving line of drummers, which currently has Diz McMullen, who's great. And I'm now playing, I have been playing for the last 2 years, in a tribute band, which is something I never thought I would do. But I sing for an AC/DC tribute, because AC/DC have always been someone that I really liked from kind of when I was in school, when I was a kid.
Because it was like a takeover gig the other month. What was that like for you?
It was brilliant. It was really good. What we wanted to do is we wanted to do a showcase where we could do the live set, invite people that we knew, invite people like yourselves from the studio, do a bit of recording, do a bit of filming, and just see how it worked and if it worked. Because obviously, when you've got 4 or 5 people in a recording studio, meeting up once a week, it sounds okay to you. It sounds good, and it sounds like you're doing the right thing. But it's important to get that feedback. So rather than doing a full-on gig, we decided to do the showcase, and obviously, the first place I thought about was the studio, because I think the studio is such a great venue with great people and, great equipment. So that's how we ended up doing that. And it was a great night,
It was really good. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I enjoyed that as well. Just sitting behind the bar, just listening.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's right. You were behind the bar, weren't you, Josh? That's right.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. No, it was good, you know, and
It's really good.
It's always great to kind of look out and see people that you know, and the other thing is when people know you, they can be honest with you, and that was the other reason for it, you know, because the lads from the band, I mean, one of the lads is from Wales, another two are from the Wirral, there's a guy from Liverpool, so you know they brought people in, and again we got the feedback from that, which was good. Unfortunately, we've not done a gig since because of the COVID situation.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like we're absolutely itching to do something. And we've been doing, you know, trying to do things online and stuff. But it's, for an AC/DC tribute band, it's not easy.
It's got to be hard, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's a lot of an acoustic covers you can do for that one.
You can, but they don't sound quite the same.
Yeah.
What is the origins of Red Monk?
Right, okay. So Red Monk is basically me and Carl Hornby, mate of mine. We were in various bands together. I think the last band that we were in, there was McFly, the original McFly, not the McFly that you know.
Yeah.
That became a band called Loki. Loki were great. I always wanted to have a really good Widnes-based rock band, and Loki were it. They were absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed being in Loki. That kind of folded, and we had Cracker Jackson. Cracker Jackson was a three-piece. There was myself and Carl and the German drummer guy from Berlin, who we're still in touch with, actually. Fantastic drummer, lovely guy. But he had to go back to Berlin. He had a family in Berlin, but he was working over here, so that was how we did that. And we did an acoustic gig at the park in Victoria Park, and it went well, and we got some good feedback from it. So I was always trying to convince Carl to do something acoustic, and he was fighting tooth and nail against it because he likes plugging a Gibson Les Paul into a big amp and just kind of thrashing away at it. But he's become a really good acoustic musician now. And the combination of the acoustic stuff and me playing fretless bass, I think works quite well. So it's a totally different thing. It's a little bit folky. And, you know, we've wrote a few things about where we come from. We've wrote things about just things that happen in the news, and, you know, and that's how that came about, really. It was kind of from necessity because we couldn't get a drummer. Drummers are really difficult to find, and once you find one, keeping older ones, you know, really difficult as well. So it was just really a way of kind of being able to do something, the two of us, and to write and to be creative, and you know, a good writing partnership and the way that works. And it's something that we both really like, and we've been able to do a lot of stuff at the studio when the, you know, acoustic work.
You've played quite a couple of authentic acoustic as Red Monk.
Yes,
it's
yeah,
been really good. So one of the things that you've done over the past couple of years is obviously get More in Common going, like the song itself. What inspired you to start the project of More in Common, the song?
Right, okay. So what happened was the first gig that Red Monk ever played was actually, I think, the very first studio More in Common. The great get together rather. So we've always kind of done it, and we're due to do something for this one. But after, I think it was the second one, Laura Bevans said, you know, she was looking for ideas of how you could take it on beyond the actual gig that was on over the weekend. So I was kind of thinking about this, and I've always been conscious that there are a lot of people around the studio doing different things, including, you know, people that were doing the jam sessions like yourselves, writers, you know, the choir and all the rest of it. So I was trying to think of something that would bring us all together. And one of the things that I thought about was writing a song and putting a song together. And originally I had this idea of actually doing it over a weekend and doing it in 48 hours or something stupid like that. And the coordination of it, we couldn't actually do that because it was getting people to pledge to being involved. And so I decided from that to do some workshops and things, which were quite successful. And then to go and speak to the people that were doing the lyrics, you know, the writing group, which I think do some fantastic work. And to speak to the tech people, like yourselves, and obviously Steve Coley was a big part of it. And just to try and get as many people involved as possible. And for me, it was almost like the blue touch paper and, you know, retreat to the back. I really didn't want to do a great deal. And I think one of the first things I said was, I don't want to play bass on it. And obviously we've got Georgina, who did a fantastic job on it. I didn't really want to do that. I didn't particularly want to sing on it. I didn't want to. So it was really to kind of almost project manage it. A couple of my jobs have been in project management. So it was to try to do that. And obviously, you know, through the thing, you do get involved. And obviously I've been involved in live presentations of it and stuff like that, and very much involved in the recording of it, you know, being in the room with Steve, listening to it, coming back. But I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great piece of work, and really enjoyed the process. And that was what it was all about, trying to bring people closer together.
Calls from a threatening sky. The raindrops fall, the people scatter, but don't forget, when rain clouds fall, we all get wet. There's more in common than divides us. Stand united, free and tall. So many here beside us, with more in common, one and all. Let's stand united, let's be as one. With more in common, we'll get things done. Nothing divides us, we'll make it so. Let's stand united and let the whole world know. There's more in common than divides us. Stand united, free and tall. So many people here beside us, with more in common, one and all. Take a walk across our big divide. It's not so deep and it's not so wide. Take your hand and I'll be your guide. Cross the bridge to the other side. There's more in common than divides us. Stand united, free and tall. So many people here beside us, with more in common, one and all. There's more in common than divides us. Let's stand united. Stand united, free and tall. Let's stand united. So many people here beside us. Let's stand united. With more in common, one and all.
Is it what you originally envisioned when you came up with the concept?
No, I wanted it to be thrash metal. No, it was, the thing with it was, I wanted it to grow. I wanted it to kind of grow organically. A bit of tambourine going on and stuff like that. I think whatever came out at the end of it was going to be valid anyway. And I think one of the things that I didn't want to do was to kind of put my stamp on it, say, you know, it's got to have fretless bass and it's got to have double tom-toms, and all that kind of stuff wasn't really what my role was about. So the fact that it was taken and it grew organically, and we looked at, with the choir, we looked at the vocals, and then someone had the idea of putting a mandolin on, and I just think it worked really, really well. So it probably became better than I would have expected, really. And, you know, I think the people that got involved hopefully enjoyed it. Yeah, and hopefully that those people also went on to do other things as well. You know, I mean, now, you know, if I've got downtime and I go on and I check Instagram or something like that, I'll find John Bostock playing tunes or Keith in isolation and stuff like that. And it's absolutely great. I think if it's given them the impetus to actually go and do that, I think that's great. Not that they weren't doing it before.
It's definitely a kickstart, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so slightly off topic, but you mentioned it before. What inspires you about nature specifically?
Right, it's a different thing, isn't it? I mean, I've always been into kind of wildlife and things like that since I was a kid. Even when I was really young, I used to, I mean, like my mum and dad would buy me animal books and I'd watch things on the telly and stuff like that. But then once I started to kind of go out and about, I used to notice things like kestrels and things like that. And our generation, if you were kicked out in the morning, you were out all day and you went playing in woods or around ponds and places now that are probably deemed to be really, really dangerous and need risk assessing and stuff like that. At that time, it was, you know, it was a more kind of naive time, but it enabled you to get out and actually enjoy the countryside. So it started with that. When I finished school, I didn't have any real qualifications because I was... the only A-level I had was in class clown, because I was kind of the class clown, so I never really did much. Listened to music and you know, read comics and stuff like that. But when I come out and got my first job was on a building site. And I was on a building site, and I mean, I was up and down a ladder with like 12 bricks on a hob and stuff like that, and hated it, absolutely hated it. The second job was in a garage. I think the second day I had to take the engine out of the car, and I was just covered in oil and stuff like that. And a mate of mine walked past, and he come in and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm taking this engine out of the car and I'm hating every minute of it." And he said, "Well, why don't you come and work with us?" And it was Warrington Runcorn Development Corporation's Ranger Service. And I worked with the Ranger Service for probably about 10 years. And from being kind of on 3 days a week at Norton Priory Walled Garden, I just went kind of up and eventually became like a supervisor from there, and did some lecturing about tree surgery and ecology and stuff like that. But I've always been really interested in it. I'm a bird watcher. I really, really have a big interest in cetaceans, dolphins and whales and things, which has enabled me to get, you know, quite a bit around the world. I've been to South America and stuff because...
Oh, wow.
I've done some cruise speaking, so I've been abroad, which is great because I couldn't afford to get abroad, but I do it by that, and it means I've seen, you know, lots and lots of things like blue whales and killer whales and stuff like that. So it's kind of a bit of an obsession. And I mean, recently I think I've done something where I was doing 6 garden birds, which became part of, I think, the videos from the studio. So that was quite nice. You know, that was but it's great. And I mean, if I do solo stuff music-wise, you will find a lot of influences. And if I write lyrics, sometimes in the lyrics it'll refer to birds or clouds or you know whatever it is. I think it kind of fits together sometimes. You know, even in some of the Red Monk stuff. I mean, Nightwing, which is the real jazzy one that we usually open with. That's about when I do some freelance ecology. So I do some surveying of bats. And when you're in the dark and you're surveying bats and you're completely pitch black and you've got headphones on and you're listening to the noises that the bats are making, it's a very, very atmospheric thing. And I mean, Carl was asking me about it. 2 weeks later, he said, "I've written a song and it's called Nightwing, and it's about you and the bats." And it was really, really good because it's not kind of, if you read it and you looked at it, you wouldn't immediately get what it's about, you know. So that was really good to kind of incorporate that into it.
I've often found that with you specifically, where what you said at the beginning about them being your two passions. Yeah. You once came to our school and did you did a lesson about mixing nature and music together.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
And that was really, really interesting. I remember that being really. I was off the day before where we actually went to Norton Priory. So I didn't understand it at first, and I was like, "Oh," yeah. But no, it was really interesting. You do have that effect of making nature and music mixed together perfectly without it seamlessly almost.
Well, I think it's always for me been about education. It's always been about environmental education. So if I'm passionate about something, I can kind of pass it on to people. And one of the things that I don't like in education, and I don't like with some people, is they have this thing that that knowledge is power thing, and they keep it to themselves and they don't share it, and it just ends up, it doesn't go anywhere. It's not a kind of positive thing,
Where can people find you online?
On all the kind of platforms. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Instagram and Facebook wise, I use the handle that I use is the Hesitant Weasel. Which is because people sometimes see, when they're doing stuff live and the Hesitant Weasel comes up. I think most people don't realise that that's me, because I used to run a blog site and stuff, and I'd put kind of sightings and things like that on. But to be honest, I just couldn't find the time to keep doing it. So what I do now, I use Twitter quite a bit. And I've got I have got more and more into kind of Instagram. But Instagram mostly is kind of natural history stuff. So I'll put pictures of moths up and things like that, because that's what I take photographs of. So
yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
So where can people find your music as well online?
Music-wise, I've got SoundCloud. There's a lot of stuff on SoundCloud, including, it's under as Anno Brandreth, but we've got Red Monk stuff that was recorded in the studio actually with Steve. It's got Loki stuff. It might even have some Cracker Jack Jackson, and it's got solo acoustic stuff as well, because I do write stuff. In fact, I've just actually bought myself a little Porter studio to try and get some of the solo stuff, as I call it, down, because when you're doing so much with other bands, it tends to get forgotten. So I'm hoping at some point to try and get a few tracks down for that, and maybe put that. I've got no disillusions. I'm never going to be a rock star, you know what I mean? But if it's there for people to listen and they get something from it and they can take something from it, then that's fine.
I was literally saying this to Josh earlier today, where I have a Bandcamp account because I'm not expecting to become world famous, but I still want to put it somewhere, if that makes sense. So I think that's completely relatable.
If nothing else, it's kind of like a virtual shelf, isn't it? It's kind of a virtual shelf to put all your stuff on. And you can kind of cherry pick it, and if the stuff you like, the stuff you like. I've got lots and lots of people that I know that use things like SoundCloud. One of me, a guy that I know who's part of the family in Nottingham, he puts a lot of stuff on, and it's great to listen to his stuff. It's totally different from my stuff. But there's some really good stuff on there, I think. And Bandcamp is one that actually people have told me I've got to get into. And
it is a good little platform, to be honest. Yeah, it is a good platform.
I've had loads of recommendations from people saying, listen to this on Bandcamp. Yeah.
Thank you for doing this, for joining us
no
today.
Problem.
It's been absolutely
really enjoyed it. Yeah. Good to speak to you both.
I hope I'm going to practice that outro now. Are you ready? Right.
Yeah, go on.
I hope you stay safe and okay.
It's very nice, very sincere.
I like the okay.
All right, guys.
Right, I'll see you later.
Thank you very much.
Bye. See you soon.